Thank you. So my name is Martina Schifferer, and I would like to present in the name of our initiative, the Array Tomography Training and Network that is funded by CZI. And I don't think I have to tell you anything about array tomography after these three great talks, but I just want to line out which topics we want to cover with the initiative. And that's basically array tomography for all kinds of imaging modalities. So from scanning EM to light microscopy, but of course also correlated light and electron microscopy. And I just highlighted the two different methods that we heard. So mostly today we heard about what I now call solid support array tomography, but there is also the automated tape collecting ultramicrotomy or ATOM. And of course, there are also other techniques like the MAC-C, and I think one of the next BioEM talks will be about that, which is really exciting. Basically our team is covering all the two different technical approaches. So you can see here that the ATOM team basically is Josh Morgan, Thomas Miskeld, Naomi Kamazawa, and Mark Terasaki, and myself. So I'm heading a small electron microscopy facility in Munich, Germany. And we are mostly working with neurodegenerative, so tissue from neurodegenerative diseases. But the people in the team, they are working on diverse fields. So the solid support array tomography is comprising also Jemima, who you heard today, and also Christina. And then in addition, Bruno Humble and Mariano Cesarelli. So this is basically the array tomography team. And as I said, we're also spanning different fields, although the focus is for some of us also neurobiology, just because the technique was developed in that, or the techniques were developed in that field. So, and we're also spanning basically the whole world, which makes our monthly meetings a bit difficult to organize time-wise. But as you can see, it's also both research labs and facilities, so different challenges that we face, and also the different modalities are represented, so light and electron microscopy and also correlative imaging. And what basically brought us to this initiative is, so first of all, we were thinking, why is volume electron microscopy needed? So it's both the morphological representation in 3D, that's kind of clear, because sometimes you have ambiguous structures, but it's also the targeting in 2D or 3D. So if you search for a rare structure or want to target a site that you previously identified by light microscopy, you also need a volume. And we think that array tomography has certain advantages over the block phase techniques, so the so-called destructive, because you really have to be very precise in targeting, because you only have basically one shot, and you have to decide for one resolution level, while in array tomography you're more flexible because you have a storable library and you can do several rounds of imaging and screening, and that gives you a lot of flexibility. So this brings me to basically the advantages of these techniques that we want to build on. So it's bridging the scales, because we have these different modalities from millimeter to nanometer scale. And with the different modalities, we can also, of course, answer different questions. So about molecular identity. So on the left side, for example, you can see light microscopy examples from Christina. That's even in a human sample, and then in the middle it's a correlative approach, and on the right hand side it's an atom approach solely with electron microscopy. So it's quite versatile, and this also is true for the resolution. So both lateral and axial resolution, we are quite flexible. With hierarchical imaging, we can basically have overview maps and then zoom into a certain region. And on the right-hand side, you can see two examples actually from Mark Terasaki's lab, where he did atom imaging on the endoplasmatic reticulum, so very high resolution, whereas in a whole glomerulus on the right-hand side, so this is rather, I would say, histology-like resolution. And this you can achieve also with the different section thicknesses. Then the next advantage that I think is not has not been used so far extensively is that it's very modular. So I think I heard from the Allen Institute that you're also shifting samples, but so in principle you can generate the samples in one lab, you can image it in another lab, and of course doing the image analysis in the third lab. And this is very for even especially for small facilities, this has a lot of advantages. And then last but not least, the cost efficiency was already mentioned today by Jemima and Ian. So for array tomography, don't need necessarily these very expensive block phase instruments. It's just some support material and some additional accessories on the ultramicrotome. And this might also be the reason why it hasn't been pushed so far as much, at least not by the companies. So and that's why we think we need a community effort, because there are also some challenges to take. So one are the substrates. We heard about different substrates that have been used, especially for the tape. We have a very critical situation that there is no commercial tape available. Then for the imaging, so the mapping and also some hardware, there needs to be some optimization on that side. And also for the correlative imaging, better probes will be needed for molecular localization, or at least better documentation of antibodies that work. And then we also face some artifacts that are not so much prone in other techniques. And this is just some examples on contamination or also beam damage if you do repeated imaging. And also we have heard a lot about fold issues. And another challenge is the image analysis. So for block phase techniques, the alignment and registration is much easier. But for array tomography, we face all these different problems that are basically originating from sample preparation. And there is also an opportunity that we can really register different stacks from different resolution schemes into one data set. So that will be very nice, and it would be nice to have that more standardized and also more automated. And there is also multiple workflows, which is nice because everyone can use their own workflow, but it would be nice to have good documentation and standardization of that. So this is just now an overview. You saw some of that already today. So the Atom, but there is also the AutoCADs. Then there is the ASH and the RTOS for the solid support array tomography, and then there are bigger diamond knives. And you also heard that you can just also build your own diamond knife and the MAXC. And there is also a new method from Delmic, FastEM, where you even use scintillator chips and another mode of imaging. So the goals of our initiatives is, first of all, to lower the entry barrier, because we think really for small facilities and even research labs, it's quite doable to do array tomography as one of the volume EM techniques, or volume EM and LM techniques. And for this, we want to provide teaching resources on a website. And we also integrate into existing exchange platforms or community platforms. And this is what Jemima already mentioned, that there is now also an AT initiative in volume EM, so a focused interest group, and also a Slack channel on array tomography. And then we will have workshops, and basically annual 5-day workshop. And the second aim is to optimize the workflows, as I already said, to standardize the approaches and to create reliable data sets that we can also exchange between sites. And then also to drive commercial developments, or in general to push all kinds of consumables and software that are needed for this technique, which is very important. And another aim is to open up new application, and that concerns both modalities. So it's not been extensively applied for light microscopy. It's really mostly for electron microscopy, and also other modalities, and also of course multimodal imaging, and also to access new biological fields. Especially we think it would be very useful for human pathology because of the storability of the tissue libraries on the support on the different support structures. And this is basically our milestones within the initiative. So within this year, we want to create this online platform and also do some more networking and organize ourselves to really provide this material and to work out the different the standardized workflows. And then next year there will be a workshop in Munich, Germany, and in the third year a workshop in Buenos Aires hosted by Mariano. And with this I will end and open for questions that you might have.
Any questions? Martina, I have just a quick question. So this type of hands-on workshop, how many participants you think you will accommodate for like 2024?
So far it's planned for 20. It should be really a hands-on workshop that we can really in small groups have hands-on experience for all the different kinds of techniques that are there. So it should be really an intense workshop with a limited number of participants.
So the initiative will offer some travel funds for people to participate, or we still have to come up with our own funding?
So there are a few spots, as far as it is planned now, there's a few spots where you can apply for funding, but mostly it's a contribution from the participants.
Okay, all right.